The LA Kings special teams continue to be not so special. Details on that and more on this edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the past 30 years, co-host of the Puck Podcast, a weekly NHL review show that's been putting out content for the past 18 years, and a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Well, the LA Kings played game 72 of the NHL season, the first of back-to-back weekend home games. This one against one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference, the Toronto Maple Leafs. LA came into this game with a tough 4-0 loss in their last outing. That would be Thursday in Colorado against the Avalanche. Looking to bounce back on home ice. Kings had won 7 in a row at home going into this game against Toronto. The Kings come on in overall with a record of 40, 22-9, and at home, 26, 3-4, best home ice winner percentage in the NHL. As for the lineup for the Kings, we would still have no Tanner Jeannot and no Alex Turcotte in this game. Both players ruled out due to injury, listed as day-to-day, but also ruled out of Sunday's game against San Jose as well. So hoping to get Tanner Jeannot and Alex Turcotte back in the Kings lineup sometime next week. As for the Kings lineup in this one, sticking with the 12-6 setup, it was the exact same lineup as Thursday's game in Colorado, except for the goaltending starter. But the Anze Kopitar line would have Anze Kopitar centering, I should say, Adrian Kempe and Andrei Kuzmenko. The second line, the Danault line, Warren Foegele and Trevor Moore were the wingers, and the Quentin Byfield line, Alex Laferriere, along with Kevin Fiala. The fourth line would be the same as the previous game, Samuel Helenius centering Jeff Malott, the recent call-up from the AHL, and the veteran Trevor Lewis. Akil Thomas, once again, a healthy scratch for the Kings. As for the defensive pairings, Mikey Anderson would be with Drew Doughty, Vladislav Gavrikov with Brant Clark, Joel Edmondson with Jordan Spence, with Jacob Overar and Kyle Burrows as your healthy scratches. And back in net, thankfully, Darcy Kemper getting the start in this one with David Riddick serving as the backup. That meant that Riddick would get the start on Sunday coming up against San Jose, with the Kings having back-to-back games. So the big question for me coming into this one, we know what we want to see in every game going forward. 2 points, 3 solid periods, but I wanted to see, and I was wondering, would the Kings have a big bounce back after a tough game in Colorado, back on home ice where they've been so amazing this year? Would they be able to pick it up right where they left off as far as being dominant at home? As far as the scoring summary in this one, pretty even first period, scoreless opening period. The Kings had 13 shots on goal. Toronto had 10. LA put 14 shots on goal in the second period and would get the first goal of the game thanks to Alex Laferriere, and the Kings led 1-0 going into the third. However, in the third period, the Leafs would use special teams to get back in the game. A shorthanded goal would tie it up, and then a power play goal gave them a 2-1 lead. Toronto would add an empty net goal and skate off with a hard-fought 3-1 victory. The Kings fall to 40, 23-9 on the season, 26, 4-4 at home with the loss. Their 7-game home ice winning streak comes to an end, and it was the first loss this season for the Kings against a top 3 team in any of the NHL's 4 divisions. LA had been 11-0 against the best teams in the NHL at home going into this game. Toronto, meanwhile, moved into first place in the Atlantic Division, and they sweep the season series from LA, going 2-0. As for the game stats in this one, Kings lose 3-1. Shots on goal favored LA 36-26. Power play 1-for-4 for Toronto, 0-for-3 for the Kings. Faceoffs favored Toronto 34-21. Hits favored the Leafs 26-17, and block shots favored Toronto 14-9. So what was good for LA from a team standpoint? Well, I thought the Kings were the better team 5-on-5. I thought that they had a great shot mentality. Those 32 shots on goal, that's plenty good enough as far as looking at having a shot mentality and getting shots on goal. And the Kings played a much better game than they did in their previous game in Colorado. What was not so good for the Kings from a team standpoint? Well, special teams, and special teams. The Kings lost this game because of their special teams. The Kings' power play has been awful, but giving up a shorthanded goal as well obviously can't happen. It's one thing to not score on the power play. It's another thing to give up a goal on the power play. And the Kings took way too many penalties in this game. Some of them may be a bit controversial, certainly in the third period. The Kings were shorthanded 5-on-4. They were shorthanded 5-on-3. They were shorthanded 4-on-3 twice. And eventually a very good team like Toronto, which has a top 10 power play, is going to take advantage of that. But the Kings, especially at home, have been great when leading going into the third period. And to let one get away, allowing 3 goals in the final period when you've got the 1-0 lead, obviously very disappointing for the LA Kings and very rare for them this season. As for our coach's quote from Jim Hiller, this was the most interesting post-game press conference that we have seen or heard from the first-year Kings head coach. He was visibly agitated after the game. He did calm down, I would say, quite a bit by the end of his press conference. He was not agitated because of the questions that were asked to him, because those questions were very benign and straightforward. But he started off by saying, quote, "If I was writing the story tonight, I know the angle I would take," end quote. He was then asked what angle he would take, and he said, quote, "I'll leave that to you," end quote. He was later asked if the Kings had too many self-inflicted wounds, referring to the penalties, and he said, quote, "That's not the word I would use, but I'm not going to use the word I would use," end quote. He then added, quote, "We played really well. I liked the game. That's not my issue," end quote. So reading between the lines, it seems pretty clear that Jim Hiller was not happy with the way the game was officiated. Obviously, if he says that he was, or if he criticizes the officials, he will get fined by the league. So he didn't want to go there. So he tried to get his point across, I believe, that's my translation of it, without actually having to say the words. Now, the Kings and Jim Hiller did challenge the Leafs game-tying goal, the shorthanded goal, for the puck played with a high stick. Austin Matthews looked like he knocked the puck out of the air. His stick was above his shoulders, which is the line that you cannot cross, if you will. And it was very, very close, but I, and clearly Jim Hiller, because he challenged the play, felt that the puck was played with a high stick. Now, I am obviously not impartial, but I try to be as fair as I can be. If I really didn't think the puck was over Austin Matthews' shoulders when he played it, I would say so. And it was close. It wasn't, clearly a blown call, but I thought the angle that we were shown on television, and I was in the press box, we have TVs up there that we can see, placed above where we sit. It looked like he touched the puck over his shoulder. However, after video review and the challenge by Jim Hiller, the call on the ice stood. It was a good goal, and clearly Jim Hiller wasn't happy about that. The general rule on these types of things, generally, and it's not 100% because these are human beings that are making these calls, the call on the ice, for it to be overturned, it has to clearly be the wrong call. And it was close. Now, like I said, I thought it was played with a high stick, but it was close. And in those situations, if it's close, they will usually stick with the call on the ice, and that was what they did in this situation. As far as the penalty calls on the Kings, I didn't have a big issue with a lot of them. I thought that there was a tripping call on Darcy Kemper that led to the game-winning goal. I thought he got his stick in the feet of the Toronto player, and he went down. I will admit, sitting up in the press box, don't have the greatest vantage point, but the Kings were called for 6 penalties, the Leafs were called for 5. So was that one particular call on the high stick? Did that go the Kings' way? No. But was it, it wasn't like the Leafs had 7 power plays and the Kings had 1 or something like that. So certainly special teams were a big deal, but the calls that gave the Maple Leafs, their power plays, I didn't have a big issue with most of them, to be honest with you. So my big takeaway from the game, I do agree with Jim Hillard that the Kings were the better 5-on-5 team. They lost this game because of the special teams. Now, the Kings are not going to have success if they lose the special teams battle. And we've seen the last two games, that's the case, against two really good teams in Colorado and Toronto. In those two combined games, Kings are 0 for 6 on the power play. They allowed a shorthanded goal. So even with the man advantage, they were a -1. And they allowed 3 power play goals on 7 opportunities. Now, the Kings, to make up for that kind of thing, would have to completely dominate 5-on-5 play. They obviously didn't do that, but they were the better team 5-on-5 against Toronto, but it can't make up for that big of a disparity. The Kings going forward likely are not going to have a good enough power play, but they have to have at least a good enough penalty kill to cancel it out. And they can't give up shorthanded goals. So it puts a lot of pressure on the penalty kill, but that's where we find ourselves right now as Kings fans and watching the Kings. The special teams are going to be an issue going forward. It's not good. There's no magic wand to wave at this point. But like I said, the Kings have had a pretty good penalty kill. It's been a top 10 PK pretty much all year long. It has to be good enough to cancel out what their deficiencies are on the power play going forward. If it isn't, they're going to have a very, very hard time winning games. And also in this one, like I said, having a lead going into the third on home ice, that's usually been a really good recipe for success for the Kings. Unfortunately, it was not in this one. All right, up next, we're going to get into some of the individual performances in the loss to the Maple Leafs. That's next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. I've got my eye on a few teams this year, and FanDuel makes it easy to bring them to bet on them with spreads, totals, and game props all the way to the national championship. You got a lucky feeling about a team? Well, you need to go to FanDuel and get your chance at glory. With tournament games happening almost every day, there is always something exciting to bet on. The FanDuel app is super easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly, no waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com to get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. All right, let's get into some of the individual performances in the loss to Toronto. Of course, we start with the goaltender, Darcy Kuemper, back in net, and I thought Kuemper had a great first 2 periods. The 2 goals he allowed, the first one, the shorthanded goal with the controversial high stick. First off, it all started with former league MVP and 3-time goal scoring champ Austin Matthews getting a clean breakaway, and Kuemper absolutely stoned him, stopped him cold. Great save. And then Toronto kept possession. Matthews got a second shot at it and was able to score underneath Kuemper. A very, very quick release by Austin Matthews. I mean, it's tough to give up that one, but he's an elite goal scorer. And right after Kuemper made a save on a clean breakaway, it's kind of hard to be upset with him on that one. I think you're more upset that he was put in that position to begin with. The second goal, Kings are shorthanded. It's a 4-on-3 power play. Austin Matthews puts a shot on. Kuemper makes a save, but obviously the Leafs have the extra player. John Tavares is there at the side of the net, and he slams it home. No chance for Darcy on that one after making a nice initial save. So if you allow 2 goals against a team like Toronto, that's, to me, you've done a good enough job. And I think Darcy Kuemper played well enough for the Kings to win. Kuemper, unfortunately, taking the loss, falling to 25, 10, and 7 on the season. His 15-game point streak at home comes to an end. He was shaken up in the second period of this one, a collision with Mikey Anderson after Mikey collided with a Leafs player and then went into Kuemper. Trainer came out, checked him out. He stayed in the game and obviously appeared to be okay. So I thought Darcy Kuemper, he just looked different. The team's more confident with him in net. He had a very solid game. Like I said, you allow 2 goals against a team, one of the best teams in the NHL. That's usually good enough for you to at least have a chance to win. And the Kings did have a chance to win this one. But Darcy Kemper did have a pretty solid game, I thought. Alex Laferriere scored the Kings' only goal. A nice power move to the net. He is deceptive with his speed, I think. And I thought he kind of caught the Leafs defenseman a little bit off guard on this one with that speed. Took the puck strong to the net, and the defenseman kind of stumbled, and that was all he needed to get right around him and put a nice backhand shot through the Toronto goaltender. Laferriere, long overdue to get a goal. He's had some quality chances, but just couldn't get one into the net. So it was great to see him score. That's one of my big takeaways. Probably my biggest takeaway from this as far as something positive for the Kings was Alex Laferriere scoring, snapped a 17-game goal drought. First goal since February the 22nd against Utah. So hopefully this will get Alex Laferriere going a little bit. That's his 15th goal of the year, his 35th point of the season. He has eclipsed his rookie totals from a year ago across the board in goals, assists, and points. He again has that deceptive speed, and I love his aggressiveness going to the net with the puck. I like that. So that was the one big positive I take away from this game was the Alex Laferriere goal for the LA Kings. Andre Kopitar had a bit of a tough night. The captain was good, fine through first two periods, kind of like the team, but he had a real tough third period, kind of like the team. He had a chance to make it 2-0 with a rebound put back early in the third. He couldn't finish on. Then on the power play, he got a pass into his skates on a drop pass from Adrian Kempe, kind of fumbled the puck, and it led to the Matthews shorthanded breakaway. He didn't score, but on the ensuing possession, they were able to score. The empty net goal to seal it, a high flip up into the lights, and Kopi was the guy back, and he seemed to kind of lose it, didn't see it. When it landed, he didn't quite know where it was. John Tavares out-muscled him for the puck and scored into an empty net as Kopi was laying on the ice. So tough third period for the Kings, a tough third period for their captain, Andre Kopitar. I thought Andrei Kuzmenko had a very strong game as far as looking for his shot. And he's been in the short time he's been with the Kings, he's kind of shown to be a pass first, shoot second kind of a player, but not in this game. He was shooting early and often in this one, had 7 shots on goal to lead the team, had a really good chance in front on the power play, probably the Kings' best scoring chance on the power play in this game. Unfortunately, the save was made, but I would like to see a little bit more of this Andrei Kuzmenko that we saw in this game with his shot mentality and his aggressiveness looking to shoot the puck. I did want to mention Jeff Malott. If you didn't see it, a big fight in this one between the recent AHL call-up and Toronto's Brandon Carlo. Honestly, absolutely just a hell of a fight between two guys going toe-to-toe, throwing punches. They both took a couple shots. They both landed a couple of shots. It was one of the better fights I've seen this season as far as, again, just two guys trading punches and really even fight. Both of them showed toughness. Both of them showed a lot of grit. So stick tap to both Jeff Malott and Brandon Carlo for that one. Just 2 games for Malott, but I like what I've seen out of him as a probably temporary replacement for Tanner Jeannot. He's got good size. He brings toughness. Obviously, we saw with the fight. Has some decent skill. And, he's obviously very motivated to show what he can do for the Kings because, he's getting his shot in the NHL. He only had 1 NHL game before the last 2. So him being in the NHL, he's looking to make an impact. Add to the fact that he's an Ontario native. He's from Burlington, Ontario, which is 50 miles south of Toronto. He had, I'm sure, lots of family and friends watching this game back in the Toronto area. So I'm sure big game for him, a thrilling fight, had a lot of people buzzing, and just a pretty good game for Jeff Malott. Before we move into the Kings stats for this one, as far as the individuals, as far as the Kings power play goes, I know that Jim Hiller and his staff wanted to give it some time to see if it could get going with the addition of Andrei Kuzmenko. So it's now been, I think, 12, 13 games since the deadline. And the power play has been a little bit better, but the last couple of games, it really hasn't been good at all. And I know there's been some talk. I know there was some posts on social media to me saying it's time to get Quentin Byfield and Brant Clark on the number 1 power play unit. And I would say at this point, I'm fine with anything they want to try and do to try and shake things up. I totally agree with Byfield. I don't know about Brant Clark. I think Drew Doughty's been okay at the point running the power play. But again, if they want to try that, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with doing anything at this point. It couldn't be any worse, right? I can't imagine it could be any worse. So we'll see if Jim Hiller tries some sort of a last-ditch effort to change things up and do some different things with the power play with 10 games left in the regular season before they go into the postseason. All right, as far as the team leaders in the loss to Toronto, Alex Ferrier had the lone goal. Philip Deneau is somehow credited with an assist on that goal. I'm not sure how, but okay. Mentioned it earlier, Andrei Kuzmenko led the Kings with 7 shots on goal. Samuel Helenius, Adrian Kempe, and Trevor Lewis each had 3 hits. Brant Clark, 2 block shots. Drew Doughty led the Kings in time on ice, 26 minutes and 26 seconds. I guess a lot of that might be due to the number of times he was out there on the penalty kill. That's too many minutes, though, for Drew Doughty at this point in his career. Quentin Byfield led the Kings in the faceoff circle, which isn't saying much. They weren't good in the faceoff circle, but he won 5 of the 10 faceoffs he was involved in. Up next, we're going to check the latest Pacific Division standings. And unfortunately, I don't have good news to share as far as that goes. However, we do have a couple of Kings prospects that are going to the Frozen Four. We'll fill you in on that next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Daylight savings snuck up on us again, and if you're feeling that lost hour of sleep, 5-Hour Energy has your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun, but sometimes you need a little boost to power through, whether you're staying up late to watch the NCAA tournament, squeezing in around a golf after work, or just trying to keep up with your busy day. 5-Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. Whether I'm at a game or traveling, 5-Hour Energy is easy to grab and keeps me feeling refreshed. Head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, and peach mango. You can even build your own 12-pack or 24-pack and have it delivered right to your door. Need one now? You can grab a 5-Hour Energy at any local grocery store or convenience store. They're everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized. Before we move on, I did want to give a quick shout out to some friends of the show that I met up with at the Kings Leafs games. Chuck, Damian, Terry, and the rest of the crew. Also, shout out to the Art Brothers as well, who stopped me on my way out of the arena. Great to see you guys, and always appreciate your support. All right, let's get to the Pacific Division standings. And again, don't have good news, unfortunately, to share here, as on Saturday, the only team of the top 3 in the Pacific to lose was the LA Kings. Golden Knights get a 3-1 win over the Predators. They're now through 73 games, record of 45, 20, and 8 for 98 points. Like I said, I think they've wrapped up the division. Not officially, but I think they're going to win the division. The Kings, 72 games played now, 40, 23, and 9 for 89 points. And the Oilers beat the Calgary Flames in overtime. Leon Draisaitl had 2 goals. They win at 3-2. He had the overtime game winner, so he's back from injury. And through 73 games now, Edmonton with a record of 42, 26, and 5. They have 89 points, the same number of points as the LA Kings. However, because the Kings have played 1 fewer game, right now they would have the tiebreaker. So the Kings do have that game in hand, and the 2 huge head-to-head meetings with the Oilers coming up at home April 5th, on the road April 14th. So again, Kings and Oilers tied in points with 89 in the race for home ice advantage in their first round playoff matchup. So the Kings will play the second of back-to-back home games on Sunday against the lowly San Jose Sharks, 7 p.m. At Crypto.com Arena. Sharks are coming off a 6-1 loss at home to the Rangers on Saturday. They are the worst team in the NHL. They have the fewest points. They have the fewest wins. That said, they've given the Kings some troubles this year. This is the 4th and final meeting between the SoCal and NoCal rivals. Sharks have won 2 of the 3 matchups so far. Kings won the first meeting on home ice 3-2 back on October 24th, but San Jose won the next 2 in their home arena by scores of 4-2 and 7-2. Jim Hiller said in his post-game press conference, the locker room was very quiet after the loss to Toronto. That translation is that the team was pissed off about the loss, which is great. They should be, but it doesn't matter unless we see some sort of a response, right, in the next game. Take that anger, take that energy, take that frustration and use it to get a win in the next game. All these points are crucial. You're playing a team that's playing for nothing. It's a rivalry game. It's an important game. Again, the Sharks are having a tough year. They'd love to come in and play the role of spoiler. And like I said, the Kings have lost 2 of 3 against them so far. So for the Kings, it really doesn't matter who you're playing at this point. They should be playing at a certain level. They should be playing with a certain intensity. So need to see that in the game against the Sharks. If you're going to get home ice advantage in the first round of the playoffs, you cannot lose to the Sharks. You cannot afford to let 2 points slip away, period. So in my mind, it's almost a must win for the Kings. They cannot let 2 points slip away against a team like the Sharks. So we shall see. Pressure's on for the Kings. Let's see if they perform on Sunday. Face Off, again, set for 7 p.m. LA time. You can see it locally on the FanDuel Sports Network, nationally on ESPN Plus, and you can hear it on the 710 ESPN app. Do want to update you real quick on Kings prospects playing postseason hockey. We'll start with junior hockey and the OHL playoffs, the Ontario Hockey League, and Kings' number 1 draft pick in 2025, power forward Liam Greentree, is at it again. Had a terrific regular season and is playing phenomenal in the postseason. Game 1 of the Windsor Spitfires series against the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds, he had a 4-point night with 2 goals and 2 assists. Game 2, another goal and 2 more assists as they win 7-1. So the Windsor Spitfires, Liam Greentree, with a 2-0 series lead in their first round in the OHL playoffs. In the Western Hockey League playoffs, the Prince George Cougars, along with Kings' third-round pick in 2023 forward Cohen Zemer, lost to the Portland Winterhawks 5-2 in their game Saturday night. So Zemer did have an assist in that loss. So their series against Portland is tied at a game apiece. College hockey, NCAA National Championship Tournament, and 2 Kings prospects are going to the Frozen Four. It could be more. The Frozen Four is the Final Four of college hockey, if you don't know. Kings goalie prospect Hampton Slukinski, the Kings' 4th-round pick in 2024, 29 saves in net as Western Michigan got by UMass 2-1 and beat and eliminated Kings' 4th-round pick in 2023, junior forward Kenny Connors in the process. Didn't have a point in the loss. Before Slukinski, the freshman netminder, he's now allowed a total of 2 goals on 58 shots in 2 NCAA tournament games so far. So he has looked fantastic, as has Liam Greentree. Kings' 2nd-round pick in 2022, junior forward Jack Hughes, didn't have a point, but his Boston University Terriers are headed to St. Louis in the Frozen Four as well, after BU picked up a 3-2 overtime win over Cornell. So again, 2 Kings college prospects heading to the Frozen Four: Hampton Slukinski, the goaltender for Western Michigan, and Jack Hughes, the forward for Boston University. And there's a couple of Kings prospects playing for the University of Denver. They'll play their game on Sunday with their chance to advance to the Frozen Four as well. All right, for you everydayers, those of you that listen and watch Locked On LA Kings every day, coming up on Monday, a complete recap of the Kings-Sharks game from Sunday night. Also want to let you know that we'd love for you to stay connected with the show. If you want to send an email in for our Friday fan feedback show or for any other reason, the email address is lockedoneddie@gmail.com, EDDIE. And you're always welcome to post your thoughts if you're watching on YouTube in the comments section. Stay connected with the show on social media, X, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We are at Locked On LA Kings. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thank you as always for listening and watching this episode of Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Have a great rest of your weekend. We will talk to you on Monday. And as always, go Kings, go.